Glad to hear you. This is my first show, D Miller's The Whole Truth and Nothing But the Truth. I want to talk about two things today. One is passing the baton, and the other one is appreciating those that have paved the way musically in this arena called gospel music. I just want to say that there's nothing like passing the baton to whether it's your kids, whether it's another somebody else that you admire in their music ability, somebody that's doing what you feel that's up to your expectation. You pass the baton. You know, you get older, you do your thing as well as they do their thing, but they complement what you have taught them, what you have given them through over the years. That's passing the baton is something of, when you get in your older age, or even not even when you get older as in age-wise, but when you get into your ministry where it becomes to where you have blossomed to the point of there's somebody that's coming up that you can pass the baton on to, whether it's your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter. There ought to be somebody to pass the baton to once you get older to a certain point in your life. The Bible talks about train up a child the way he should go, and when he gets old, he won't depart from it. So if we do that as Christians and people of this gospel arena, that would go off smoothly, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a singer, whether you're a drummer, keyboard player, organist, preacher, whatever you are. There ought to be somebody in your family or in your circle that you'll be able to pass the baton off to, or somebody that you have brought up, taught the right way to do things, the way you have done it, that the legacy of you or the legacy of what you have taught or what you have done is being met. The third thing of that is when you're bringing up passing the baton to somebody, most people don't do that these days. We don't pass the baton. It's 2011. People haven't been passing the baton. They've been leaving this earth with everything. No wills being made. Nothing's being right out. When I die, this is what's going to take place. This is who takes over my ministry. This is who takes over this part of my life musically. This is who takes over my church at this point. This is who takes my spot once I'm dead and gone. Because no doubt about it, there's going to come a time that you are going to leave this earth. So there ought to be somebody somewhere that you ought to be passing the baton to. And that's just my little spiel on that right there. And there's another thing when it comes to passing the baton that hasn't been done these days when it comes to choir directors. As yours truly, I'm a choir director, grew up under some of the great. I never seen, by the time I was born and raised up, I never got a chance to see here in my city, Miami, Florida, Alexander. Never seen him direct, but I heard many great stories about him, to the point where I want to be somewhere in that category of how directors and how we function, how choir is supposed to be, how they're supposed to sound, just the whole 9 yards. And then you have people that took me under their wing personally when it comes to Gary Howard, Orlando Draper. Anytime he was in town, he would carry me under his wing, and that happened maybe 5 times out of my whole life in his career of Orlando Draper and his associates. Then you have Tyrone Hilton. Then you have Stephen English. Those are people that I grew up under when it comes to choir directors in my city. But there's been other people that I've watched when it comes to Tyrone Block and Sean Mitchell. Those guys in the directors category people that I've seen direct on a personal note. That's just, those are people that I feel that, you ought to, as a choir director, there ought to be somebody, you can follow that's doing the right thing when it comes to what you're trying to do when it comes to your craft. Your craft ought to be in a way that is impactful to somebody else's life, and not just so much the Showtime thing. I mean, everybody talk about Ricky Dillard and everything. I love Ricky Dillard, but there's only can be one Ricky Dillard, and he's awesome at what he does. And I mean, that's somebody that's good to follow if you have that if you have it what it takes to be that type of director. If you don't have what it takes to be that type of right director, then you find what you can do best as a director, and you do that. He found his niche on what he does best, and he does it well. And he's one of those that I grew up watching to this day as a director, and I found my niche out of watching these different guys growing up. And I don't want to forget about Nobi McCray, from watching her up at Cooper Simple Church God in Christ, where now the pastor is Pastor Mark Cooper. Then it was Leonard Cooper, the father of Pastor Cooper, and the mother, Mildred Cooper. They were pastor then, but she, out of any woman that I've seen direct, was skin the choir alive. And those are just a few names that I'm name dropping with that. But I'm done with the whole passing baton type of thing, because that's just something that always been on my heart. Everybody ought to have a place in their life once they get older. Once you found your niche, once you got to where God, and you believe that's where God has gotten you, you're at a set place, there needs to become a time where there ought to be somebody in your circle that you ought to be able to pass the baton to. And that's that on that spiel. Next scenario is, appreciating those that have paved the way, that piggybacks on those that pass the baton. I'm just keeping it real straight cut forward with y'all. People that have paved the way, all over this world. When you're talking about choirs, let's just go ahead and call a book by its cover. I don't even know what the words to even call her, because she was awesome in what she did when it comes to gospel choirs in her time, and that was the late Mattie Moss Clark. And not just with the Church of God in Christ. Choirs all over this world admired her work, admired what she did with choir, and respected her as a choir director, as a leader, as a woman of God in the industry. She didn't get she didn't get as much of props as she should have during her time, but through her legacy, her daughters carried on that legacy, and they carry it well. They carry it well, and through that, people till this day follow that legacy. Not just her daughters, but people all over this world follow that legacy of Mattie Moss Clark. I can keep calling names, but she, as when it comes to directors and somebody in the music industry, and she wasn't even really in the industry like that, but just the mere fact that her impact on your life by you being a singer, you being a choir director, you being in the choir stand under her direction, she makes your toes curl. But that's just showing major appreciation for people, whether it's Chicago, Miami, Florida, LA, New York, Boston, Memphis, Nashville, wherever your city is. You ought to show appreciation to those that have majorly paved the way. I try to do it as often as I can here in my city. I'm in Miami, Florida. I've been here for quite some time. And there have been many people that have majorly um, paved the way for me to do what I do in this city, and not just this city, all over this country, these United States. Everybody don't get to travel outside of the United States. Everybody don't get to travel, to all these other different countries. But people in my city, like the Ingram Singers, Miami Man's Choir, Avery Jones, Spirit of Life. Um, when you had those kind of people paving the way in your city, those are the choirs that paved the way in this city a whole lot. And there are others, you know, Miami is always considered, the Quartet city. But there's more to Miami than Quartet music. I love it to death. There's not music in this city that I don't love. At the same token, the choir arena, those are the groups that paved the way when it comes to choirs and groups all over this city. And two of those groups are still going on to this day when it comes to Miami Man's Choir and the Spirit of Life. Pastor Avery Jones, Ingram they had a reunion a couple years ago, and it was a wonderful thing. And Dwayne Ingram called it quits. When it's up, when it's up, it's up. I mean, I really wish he would have, kept it going, or let somebody carry the baton, or let somebody, carry the load. Even though it had Ingram gospel singers on it, I feel like the legacy could have kept going in the city, because it was a major, major, major deal with that. And I respect him for that. I mean, if I had a chance to, really do that, I would have kept, the legacy going, even if it wasn't me directing it personally. But that legacy of the Ingram Singers was a great thing. Was a legacy that could have kept going as long as, like the Miami Mats, the legacy is still going on. They're doing better things. They regroup, they revamp some things, they tried some things, they did some new auditions, they got some new members, everything. There's nothing like, freshness. Ain't nothing like landing the plane and then getting that plane started all over again. That's my spiel on that. But I really wish that legacy would have kept going. Rather, it was his sons D or Stan, or even his daughter Shanavia. They could have carried that legacy. It didn't have to really have to stay in Miami, but if they wanted to, that legacy would have been good. But I'm just talking about mainly those that have paved the way when it comes to the music industry. Whether you are a solo artist, whether you are group, quartet group, or you're a dance liturgically or mime, whatever your gift is in the music industry, those that have paved the way, and whatever you do for the Lord, you ought to show your appreciation, because if it had not been for those that have paved the way, you wouldn't be, and we wouldn't be, that's artists, and those that are choir directors, those that are musicians, and etc. Those that have our own groups now wouldn't even have or be able to have those types of groups if it had not been for those that have paved the way. Shout out to Pastor Lydia Gooden. Shout out to Pastor Mark Cooper. Shout out to Adrian Warren. Shout out to Anita Wilson. Shout out to those are just people that like paved the way for me. Joy Cooper. I love you guys. And I try to show my appreciation all the time to those people in my city, because you never know when they may go, and you never know when you're going to go. So every day you live and breathe, show your appreciation. This is David Miller, and this is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I'm signing off, and you all have a blessed and prosperous, awesome, glorious day.